Overnight, the pandemic taking center stage at the first and only vice presidential face-off. Right out the gate, Kamala Harris taking the Trump administration to task for its response.
The American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
Separated by plexiglass and sitting over 12 feet apart, the California senator accusing Vice President Mike Pence in the White House of keeping Americans in the dark.
They knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. They knew and they covered it up.
Pence pulling from the president's playbook, claiming a vaccine is right around the corner.
We believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year.
But experts say it likely won't be widely available until several months into next year. With the president battling the virus and the outbreak at the White House growing, Pence asked to explain, how did this happen?
That Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus. And it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise.
But there was no social distancing and very few masks. And he failed to mention that the celebration included an intimate indoor reception, instead saying Americans should be free to make their own decisions about how to protect themselves from the virus.
The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health.
And with 12.6 million Americans out of work, the two sparring over which ticket has the best plan to bring back the economy.
And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
Over and over again, both candidates dodging questions, instead reverting back to talking points.
Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science.
But the Trump administration has repeatedly dismissed science on climate change. And on health care, Harris ripping into Pence for trying to dismantle Obamacare with no replacement.
If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are
and on health care, Harris ripping into Pence for trying to dismantle Obamacare with no replacement. Pence said he and the president have a plan that would protect people with pre-existing conditions, but wouldn't say what that plan is. Instead, he changed the subject, pushing Harris on whether a Biden administration would pack the Supreme Court, a question she wouldn't answer.
People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Despite their policy differences, the debate a stark contrast to the clash between President Trump and Joe Biden, with a return of civility.
And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
And there was another big question that the vice president refused to answer. What would he do if the president loses to Joe Biden and refuses to accept the election results? Pence deflecting, instead echoing Trump, making baseless claims about mail-in voter fraud and declining to say if he would commit to a peaceful transition of power.